Hi, my name's Carl Surgeon, and today I'm going to actually show you how to make a rustic country Italian loaf, which is made quite quickly, quite easily, no extra proving, something you can knock up within an hour and a half from scratch to finish. Right, off we go. So we've got some strong bread flour here. This one's quite a rich loaf because it contains eggs, olive oil, fresh yeast, and we also put in some leftover salami and some leftover cheese. So any other sort of cheese or sausage you've got left over, it's a real good way of using up bits and bobs. So first, we've got the flour, we've got some olive oil, which we put into our little jug. About so much. The recipe will accompany this, obviously. 2 whole eggs. We've got our yeast, 1 ounce of yeast that we've got in our recipe here, which has been fermenting for 15 minutes with some warm water. We now add that to our olive oil and egg mixture. I think there. And we get our whisk, a little bit of warm water. Again, all amounts are in the recipe. And let's give it a little whisk together to blend the yeast, the eggs and the olive oil. Now, important to all breads is to have a little bit of salt, around about 2 teaspoons, into our flour. Super. And give that a nice little mix. Make a hole in the centre of there and put in our yeast and egg mixture. A little at a time, never add it all, just in case there's a little bit too much. You know, a nice wooden spoon. Give it a nice gentle mix to start it off, just to get a nice thick paste before we turn it out onto our work surface and give it some kneading. Okay, so we're just blending this now in the bowl. I mean, you can do it on the table completely, but it can be a bit of a messy affair, so we do it this way. So we've now got the stage in the bowl where we can work this a bit easier now. Turn it out onto our work surface. Okay, so I've got some flour here that we can help aid the kneading. A little bit of wholemeal flour this is, but it could be white flour, doesn't have to be wholemeal. I just happen to have wholemeal handy. I'm just going to knead away for around about 5 minutes. And the reason we do the kneading is just to actually get the gluten working in the bread, so that we can get it to be a nice smooth loaf when we make it. But bear in mind, this is quite a rustic country loaf. Roll it round your table, any bits that are left on the table. So we've got to that stage now. We've got it nicely kneaded. So leave it there for a second. We'll get a little sprinkling of flour for when we come to do the next bit. So we can sit that on there. And a little sprinkle on there. Okay. If we've got our cheese and our sausage, we just make them into small dice. Any old way. It could be any cheese you can use for this. Preferably a nice fragrant cheese that you might have left in your larder. So we've got our cheese chopped. Then we've got our salami, or our saucisson, whichever you want to call it. Just, again, into small chunks. Okay, so we've got our filling for our bread, which gives it that nice feel that it's something you've made fresh from home yourself. And over here, I've got what I think is one of the best things you can use for baking bread. Brilliant for pizzas as well. This is just a base of a good pot planter, basically. If you can get them from the garden centre, quite cheap. It's better than buying one of those expensive pizza stones. Just get one of these. Make sure you get it unglazed, and it does a brilliant job. And to give it a little bit more, crust on the bottom of your bread, I've got some medium cornmeal here, or polenta, and we sprinkle this on our tray. It'll also aid your bread from not sticking to your dish when you bake it. So a little sprinkling of that. When the bread goes on, that'll give your bread a lovely crust on the bottom. Get our cheese and our salami, put it into the middle there, and just bring the sides in, and just basically you want to incorporate this into the dough. Keep rolling until we get a decent length that we can safely turn this into a circle, like a big donut. And don't worry if a few bits like that come out, bits of meat come out to the top, it's not a problem. It'll all be wonderful at the end. So we've got it to around about 14, 16 inches long, and all we're going to do now is bring it round and pinch those 2 ends together, like so. So it looks like we've got a nice big ring donut. So we've got to this stage now. We've got our donut. We've got our baking tray, which I use as the terracotta base, which is brilliant. As you'll see, if you try it yourself, it's brilliant. Okay, now we just pick it up, literally, put it onto our terracotta pot. Okay, and just cover it, and we're going to leave that to prove for about an hour. Okay, so we've had a little tidy up now, that's it, and we're about to check our bread and see if it's proved enough to go in the oven. So we'll have a quick look at that. We'll get it from down up here and we'll have a look. Bring it down. Put there. Be gentle with it, don't bash it around, because if you bash it around, the extra air you put into your bread will have been knocked out. And now you can see that little bread that we saw about an hour ago is pretty much double in size. It's got a lovely soft texture. Right, so now we've got our oven on 180 or 200, 180 for fan oven, 200 for a non-fan oven. Or if you've got an Aga, the hot part. Okay, so we're just going to pop that straight in the oven. Job done. And that'll be ready in around about 40 minutes. And our bread should be ready to come out of the oven now, so we'll have a proper look at that and see how it's getting on. Bearing in mind the terracotta base that we use in this recipe will retain its heat for much longer than a metal tray or a baking sheet. So even up to half an hour afterwards, it'll still be too hot to handle, so be very careful. There we go. And there we have, shut the oven, an absolutely gorgeous, big, bold loaf. The cheese is oozed out the side a bit. So there we have it now, a nice, lovely, rustic Italian country loaf. Or in this case, it's a Lincolnshire country loaf, but it's just a lovely country loaf. It's made with love and made at home. Brilliant.